Good evening everyone and welcome back to the channel. I have just finished watching the Tottenham Hotspur video that's been put out today of Daniel Levy and his new CEO Vinai, and I can't say his surname, I really apologise, and I'm not going to butcher it because that would be really poor of me. But yeah, really really quite interesting because in my mind what we're seeing is the influence of the new guy, because I don't think Daniel Levy would have done anything like this prior to him joining. I know he has done other kind of interviews and stuff like that, but he's very guarded and doesn't generally get too involved in that sort of thing. And this one really struck me pretty much as a charm offensive more than anything. Both Vinai and Levy were kind of singing each other's praises, talking about their work ethic and their desire to improve and all this kind of stuff and be winners and everything else. But also at the same time as that, Vinai was talking about Daniel Levy being about them both being workaholics, but also about whilst Daniel Levy comes across as being very hard and having broad shoulders and thick skin, he actually doesn't have, totally thick skin, because he knows how much it hurts him, not winning and so on. And it was quite interesting because it kind of feels like they were really trying to dispel this myth that Daniel Levy doesn't care, that he's not interested and all he's in it for is the money, and trying to portray him as a caring owner, as a person, and give him that kind of face, which is something he's never really had. Now, whether that works or not, I don't know. I think Tottenham fans have been critical of Daniel Levy for so long now, for so many years, that it's going to be very, very difficult for him to really show anything other than what he's already done and what people think of him. I don't think he's going to be in a position to be able to change perception of him. Not in the short term, maybe in the long term. Maybe in the long term, get a few more trophies under your belt, show some real ambition, and then maybe people will start to forgive him. But as it stands at the moment, I can't see a way where Tottenham fans are gonna buy into it. Like, for me, I was almost chuckling to myself and thinking, I've got a comment about this video because it just really strikes me as a real PR stunt trying to do some damage limitation. I think he realises how big a deal it's been, the fact that we've got rid of Ange Postecoglou after winning a trophy, after it being so long without one, that now the pressure is really on, because how do you top what Ange did but in the same Tottenham model? And for me, that's just not going to work. They need to do more. They need to spend some serious money to really show some ambition. And I know I've said this already on a couple of occasions. So I think it might be a start. I think I actually quite welcome seeing him interviewed like that a bit more, and the new guy getting involved, talking to the supporters trusts, the fan advisory board, and getting closer to the people that work at the club to understand what they do good and what they don't do so well and how they can improve things. And I think from what I understood, like listening to other people talk about this guy, is that I guess what he brings to the table is more about engaging people and improving things, getting closer to the fans, giving people what they want, and all those touches that you probably haven't seen before. I think the Bilbao thing where everyone was given a scarf, and the last home game of the season where everyone was given flags and stuff like that, and the tifo and all this sort of stuff is stuff that the club have historically stayed away from pretty much. And I think he probably recognises that there is a big opportunity there, especially in terms of PR and trying to, improve everything around the club and the feeling around the club. So I think I'm not gonna knock this interview. I'm very, very sceptical of it, and like I say, a bit of a comedy value for some of it, but I welcome it in terms of being able to see them say what they're saying, and maybe in time we can get more out of that, a bit more detail and stuff. It's a 7-minute video, so they weren't going to talk about an awful lot, and not the one I've seen anyway. And they did talk about, Ange going, and it was a difficult decision and blah, blah, blah. But we want a challenge on all fronts. We want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. Well, to be fair, sorry, there's a fly bugging me. To be fair, you are not going to do that, Daniel, if you are going in and bidding £50 million for Mohamed Kudus at West Ham if his release clause is 84 million, which is something else I've just read today. It might be total bullshit, but the point is, you're not going to win the Premier League and the Champions League and things like that just bringing 18-year-old kids into the club. You have got to do more. You've got to work harder and bring in real talent. If you're talking about winning the Premier League, when, like, if you're planning to do that maybe in 5 or 6 years' time, then maybe that's why you're bringing in the youngsters now. But then if that's the plan, then we need to know that that's the plan. That we're not gonna win anything. We're building for the future, and our aim is to win the Premier League by X. At least you have an idea about the direction the club's going in. Whereas at the moment, we just don't know. We're all desperate for them to build upon the performance, not the performance, but the win in bloody fly, the win in Bilbao. We all want them to build on that, but are they going to? And that's the real problem. We just don't know what the direction is. So for me, it's a bit of a PR stunt just to try and quell a bit of noise and all the rest of it. Talked a bit about Thomas Frank and the fact that they had a real thorough search for who they wanted as the manager. They had 30 candidates that they had in the thing, but they went through them all with speed was the terminology, and they had 10 specific targets or specific points that they wanted the manager to have. And Thomas Frank was their number one target. He was the man that they wanted. Now, they didn't tell you what those 10 attributes were that they wanted, but they did talk about the fact that Thomas Frank is good with developing young talent, and when they have got lots and lots of young talent, which kind of suggests that they're not going to be going out and buying lots of ready-made players. They want him to improve the players that they've got, the young talent coming through and so on, which doesn't bode well for me, from my point of view, because I want us to continue winning now, because those kids, the depth of that squad is not big enough to challenge, and get out of the group stages and get into the Champions League or even Europe. I don't even think we'll be strong enough to play in Europe next season if we don't invest in this squad now. And we saw the damage it did when we didn't sign anybody for 518 days. That set us back 5 years, by not keeping up that momentum. It's going to be a real interesting summer to see what comes up. There's so many rumours. It's just it's getting ridiculous. I mean, there's more rumours than Fleetwood Mac, and only the old ones will get that reference. But the point is, if we're going to need to turn some of those rumours into reality and give some depth into this squad, and it can't just be youngsters. Whilst that may well be where Thomas Frank's real skills lie, it's not going to win you the Champions League, and it's not going to win you the Premier League, Daniel. It may not even get you into Europe. So you've got to think very, 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 very hard about it. And I hope that when Vinay is talking to the Tottenham Hotspur Trust, the fan advisory board, and anybody else, that they all tell him how important it is to keep the momentum that we've started. And it wasn't really about Ange, it was about the momentum. I think that's what upset most people that were upset about Ange going is it was the momentum and what we was building and what could he do with the right support. This change feels like they're not going to change what they're doing. They're not going to give you the support that we all feel they need. So what they're going to do is change the manager and maintain the direction they're on and hope that he can do something magical. And personally, I just don't think he can. I just don't think it works like that. So, but time will tell. Time will tell. These guys are very successful, very rich businessmen who are making themselves richer and richer and richer on the backs of the supporters' addiction and loyalty to their club. But that's modern day football, isn't it? And I don't think we're going to change it. Doesn't matter how much I bleat on about it, it's not going to change. So anyway, I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes from here. But it'll be interesting summer, I think. And it will tell us all we need to know about where we're going in the future. But listen, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Up the Spurs.